What makes this all stakes pick 5 worth going after is the first race in my eyes. You see down there at the bottom, I have the running styles for each horse, and we have the 1, 5, and 7 who all need to go gate to wire, I feel, to win this race. Now, adventuring the 1, 48 to the first call, 113 and 2/5 to the second call, and didn't win that race. Now, that's a mile and a half. Grade 3, of course, getting relief in here, shortening up. But when you look at the wins, September 13th at Kentucky Downs, slow pace. You go one race back from there on an off-track, slow pace. You go all the way back down September 5th, 2021 at Kentucky Downs. Minus 21, minus 24 at the first and second call from the Briz race shapes. She, needs a very slow race to win in here. The 5, who I feel could take this lead actually at the first and second call. Last time out, you see that 47 and 2/5, 111 and 4/5 this second call. Moving up in class, but much faster, and we see a lot more first place by open lengths at the first call here. Now, I don't think she's quite on par with these runners, but there's going to be enough early pressure to where venturing isn't going to be able to get that easy lead that she needs as well, and the slow fractions, as we've touched on, to take this field gate to wire, especially at 2-1. And then lastly, you have the 7, who is coming from 2 off the turf events, and again, 47 and 3/5. Of course, that's only a 3-horse field, but again, the first call is going to be heavily contested, so you have to evaluate these early runners at the first call. And if we see the 7, who fits a bit more of a profile of a presser, we can say 47 and 3/5 seconds. We go to the 5, who on the turf we see last time out 47 and 2/5 seconds, and then the 1 we see 48 seconds to the first call. The 1 to me is completely wiped out of this race. Even if she wants to come from off the pace, I don't think that's the best of ideas for her, because that's not where her stronger races have been. They've been slow, not very challenging early fractions. She's been able to control them, and then here she's not going to control them. So for me, the 1, 5, and 7 we're completely going to toss in here and look to take advantage of that short price favorite. I wouldn't use the 5's line of 47 and 2/5 seconds and 111 and 4/5 seconds to the second call as the line to evaluate every runner in here today and see who can run into those fractions. The 2, look, I think that she'll have a little bit of added pressure early on coming out of those sprint races. If we look down at her lone mile turf event back there at Churchill Downs, made a decent move to get up to second by a head before losing, coming in third by half a length. I don't think that's a bad effort. It's just that she's coming out of all these sprints. Maybe she shows a little bit more. Maybe she presses a little bit more in here, but I don't think she's quite on par with these runners in here. The 4 stands out, but she hasn't won at this level. 3 races back is going to make her a player, but we see her wins. Again, you're questioning form right now. She's not quite in form. She hasn't won here at Fairgrounds. When she comes into the Fairgrounds, it doesn't go very well. So I think she's definitely on the outside looking in, not quite on this class level. The 6 is going to be where everybody looks to go in this race, and it's for good reason. Yes, long layoff, but look at the pace. She's able to close into a 47 and 3/5, 111 and 3/5 second call, 6th to 8th, which is not what you want to see. But then she explodes, gets to first, and holds on by a neck. 2 races back, slower pace, but again, in second, goes to 4th, but then makes up the ground again to pass horses. What you really like to see is that when she came from Argentina, she comes with multiple grade 1 wins and backed it up last summer. These overseas, well, out of the country, not overseas, out of the country runners, you want them to have success before you back them. And clearly coming to the U.S. was the right move for this horse. And I really think she hangs with this group of horses. The glaring stat, though, if you look at the top, 90 plus days away, 8%. You don't like to see that, especially at 3-1. But I don't think you can toss her in here. She's going to be probably the best of the pressers in here. But The 8, the defending champs back and looking to get back on track, I think. First time on turf for the year. When you look at her old races, the pace projected in here today is going to be what she wants. We go back to Canterbury, June 22nd. You see that 47-second flat, 110 and 1/5. Presses from third, gets to first, holds on by a head at the second call and into the stretch before drawing away. She looks to be the one to have the earliest jump on the deeper of the off the pace runners in here. Now, looking at the closers, we get to the 3. She's going to get the benefit of the track. You know, this fairgrounds course has been very kind to closers, and visually, last race you like to see. She made a good move each call, but the question is, can she take another step forward? Turf runners, they don't bounce as easily. She's coming off a higher figure, and she's increased it each of her last 3 races. I'm gonna lean to say that she doesn't. Like I said, turf horses don't bounce as much as a dirt runner would. We're also asking her in here to run at or above her career best. 12-1. I think you don't want to pass on that because you have a big price. She's going to be a closer. The fractions are going to be what she can overcome. We see back at Hawthorne on October 8th, 46 and 2/5, 110 and 1/5, a quick pace, able to move from 6th to 3rd to 2nd to 1st. She knows how to pass runners. I can't hold that against anybody. I just think that she's looking to break through to this level. She's won a stakes race before. She needs to prove it again in here. The 9. First off, I think the morning line is going to get hammered in here for the 9. This is going to be where a lot of people looking at the closers alone are like, 5-1 on this horse. It makes no sense. It's her season debut. And if you look at her workout pattern, it's been perfectly spaced out. We see there January 26th, February 8th, February 15th, 24th, March 2nd, March 8th, March 18th. She's been on training on the turf. This horse is one where they're looking coming into her 4-year-old season to do some big things, clearly. And when you look at who she's been racing against, it's a who's who of turf routers. It's a clear comeback spot. I'm not tossing her. She knows how to pass horses. We look back down on May 6th at Churchill Downs, 10th to 8th to 1st, and then draws away. Even in the race before that, Fairgrounds down here, 8th to 8th to 3rd to 3rd. She knows how to pass runners. She's going to get pace up front. 5-1. There's no chance we get that. If we do, I'd be running to the windows to bet her. And then the 10, she's rounding into form. You can see all those races in the fall, which were bad. Okay, the last 3 races, they've shown promise, just not as much as I think we all like to see. She's going to be a toss for me. I just think there's too much pace in here up front early. Adventuring, she can't rate from off the pace. And I think that makes her a good horse and a good favorite to play against. I'm not going to bet her at that short price. I'm going to classify this race as pretty much open as to how against her I am. I have in my A's the 9 and the 8. And then I'm going to follow up with my B's with the 6 in here, who I think is probably going to be the best of the pressers. And then I'm going to take a flyer in here with how I feel it's open with the 3. I just think you need to be looking. We're tossing all the early runners. I think they're going to eat each other up. And I really think this is a good way to kick off that early pick 5 for us. Ninth race, New Orleans Classic. It starts with these early horses because short field, early speed's always going to be a threat. Starting with the 1, I'd expect him to look to run the same race as we saw last time out. Gun for the front and just hope to hold on. Speed figures wise, he doesn't fit, especially when you see the 3 is going to be there early too. I love his race in the Razorback last time out, and you have to upgrade it after Last Samurai 1 next time out as well. I just don't think he's fast enough to wire in here with the 1, and then you're looking at this monster here, Art Collector. He can take this race early if he wants to. I have him as a presser though because he's shown the ability to do both. Off almost a 4-month layoff, fires a triple-digit speed figure. That's going to be tough for any of these horses to really compete against in here. 8-5 morning line. Listen, if we're getting that, sprint. I don't 8 to 5 would be, I mean, it'd be the bet of the month for you. I really do believe so. The 4, just way out of class level in here. The second call times of his wins, just way too slow. Going to be a toss for me. The 7, I have him as a presser, but he's been the money burner in my opinion. Constantly in the money, but only wins when he's been an obvious choice. Pace-wise, if you feel he takes a big step forward here, then you probably love him. He can press into that 47 2/5, 111 and 1/5. When you look at the level of races he's won, grade 3 back at Mountaineer, I'm not too thrilled about that. He's won a stakes race, optional claimer, just not quite a graded stakes horse. The 8, Pioneer of Medina, he's going to be the main threat in here to Art Collector. If he can build off that last race, then he may be able to shake things up. We see that he can win at 111 and 1/5 seconds at the second call. He can press into that pace. He may be the horse that looks to really be coming into himself as an older horse, but when you're facing a horse like Art Collector, that's a big ask, especially early in your 4-year-old campaign going against an older horse that I really think is the best of the best that we're seeing right now. Now, looking at the closers, you can't discount them here at Fairgrounds because the running styles have been pretty fair, but I'm not too thrilled with either of these closers in here. This is going to be a debut here for the 5. I think the positive is that we're going the mile and 1/8. He's been better with distance. Speed is going to be there for him to run into, but the second call of his wins have been pretty slow. Grade 3 to grade 2, grade 1 is a big jump, and he hasn't performed in those grade 2 or grade 1s. I'm not liking him too much in here. He's going to look to build off those triple digit figures and take a big step here going into his 4-year-old season. And then the 6, who's the lesser of the 2 closers, in my opinion. You can see again, super slow second calls where the pace just didn't hold, where he just comes up and gets a win. And he's been regressing in his last 3 starts. I don't see how you go against Art Collector in here. And not much of a shocker. I think a lot of the public's going to be there as well. He can run all or off the pace. Even if he regresses off that Pegasus, I think it's going to take a lot from these other horses to run him down. He can press the speed hard enough, make them fold in the lane. The upset, of course, would be the 8, Pioneer of Medina. But he has to beat Art Collector at his own game. He may be sitting just behind Art Collector and could get the setup on Art Collector, who's been pressing those early horses and then try to come sweeping by late. I don't see it. I think Art Collector is a heavy single in here. I just don't think you try to get cute in this race. If you want to add Pioneer of Medina, you can. If you want to get skinnier somewhere else and really want to lock up this race. But for me, I think Art Collector is as solid as they come in this sequence. Moving on to the 10th, another turf race. And I have the 5 and 6 as early horses. And I want to come down here to the end of the past performances because that rail's been out all meet down here at Fairgrounds, giving us some pretty funky times that are going to come back a little bit slower. I want to see kind of what the average pace is of the 5 and 6. If we look at the 5, E1 pace of 99. We look at 2 Emmys, 83 for E1. E2 for Spooky Channel, 109. The 6 is at 91. Of course, flip for late speed. Let's start with the 6 because he's on the same path as last year. The difference is that he won that grade 3 this year. He's trending forward. He can rate from off the pace, which is going to be big in here for him because the 5 is faster. And he's faster on paper. I think he's faster just in general. And I also think that would be the idea for them in here again after last race. Same knock as we've touched on other races before. No win, though, higher than a grade 3 for the 5. I just think, the speed of the speed, you get out front, see what will happen. Triple digit figure. We see every time he's ran a triple digit figure, he's regressed. That's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen in here again because we have such good pressers. The 6 2 Emmys, again, I want to say again, I think he runs a little bit better from off the pace, but he can take things gate to wire. Recently, see there this past spring, hasn't really been taking the lead much, and it wasn't working out too well, but I think he'll be able to sit second or third in here, which is what he wants. Looking through the pressers, the one, Atone, I don't know what to do with him, and to me, that makes it a sign to be pretty critical, especially considering the win last time out. That's a career best figure. His best races have been from off the pace, but what if he tries to run with these horses early? I don't think that's a smart idea. You see a bullet workout, and you have to kind of wonder if they're going to send him. He just has the makings of a favorite to go after in here, especially coming off that big grade 1 win. I think a lot of people are going to latch to him, see the 5-2 figure on the morning line, and think they're getting good value. Listen, I'm going to take a stand in this turf race as well, and I'm going to toss him in here. The 2, Rising Empire, taking a shot, stepping up in class big time. He's trending forward, but needs more than a step forward to win in here. I don't want anything to do with him. The 3 comes out of the same race as 2 Emmys and finished good. He hasn't been able to break through to a graded win, but in his first try, he ran to his odds in that grade 3. If you look 2 starts back, he beats 2 Emmys, and I think he has to be a player since we're believing in 2 Emmys in this race. Maybe an old school angle and tailor more to the buyers, but running the same figure back to back is usually a sign of a big effort to come. 5-1 is a presser. We see he can pass horses. I like that. I'm not going to toss him in here. Moving all the way down to the 7, another mystery, the cutback just makes sense. That move did work for them back in June 3rd. You see May 21st ran a mile and a half. Next time out, June 3rd, cut to a mile, wins the race. Kind of same thing I think they're looking to do in here. He's won a grade 3, but hasn't broke through in a grade 2. Now, again, you see career top 104. Does he build on it or does he regress? As we've seen each time he's done, he's ran a triple digit figure. He's regressed next time out. So be a little bit leery. I don't want to toss because he fits, but I just have that slight little hang up on him. The 8, toss. Simple as that for me. Out of form, searching. I'll let him beat me. Hopefully he takes a lot of money with people thinking they're getting a bargain. But if you look over there as odds, 7-2, 5-2, 5-1. People are thinking they're getting a bargain on this guy. You're not. I want nothing to do with them. 10-1. I hope he gets down to 2-1. Moving over to the closers. Let's just go in order as we have been. The 4, facing this level, he hasn't done much. He fills up the finishes in the money, and one that I think is more of a key for underneath. I just don't think he'll have that late punch that the others have in here. The 9, not really close to the other horses in here at all. We see his wins have came in optional claimers. They're trying to catch lightning in here coming off a win. I just don't see it happening today. The 10, same thing, way out of his class level. He'll have to run monster to be a contender in here. I'm going to pass. I want to get a little wide in this leg with fading a tone. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a price on top for me with the 3, Gentle Soul. And then I'm going to add in the 7 as well as an A, another mystery. I think he gets the pace set up that he wants to run into this race. B's, I'm going to go with the 6, 2 Emmys. And then I'm also going to add in the 4, English Tavern, who's shown the ability to be in the mix late. I think this is a leg to really get a price, and I could and probably should slide up English Tavern to have more coverage to him in my A's with really looking for that price. But I think 2 Emmys might be the likeliest of winners. But I'm a little concerned with his recent form to really slide him into that A category. So I'm going to look to get a double-digit price in here and then back up with 2 Emmys as a B. I think, again, this is a good race to try to look to get a price because I'm really against the tone and don't think he really stacks up in here against this field. I felt this Fairgrounds Oaks was probably one of the harder races to interpret in this sequence because we have a short field. Again, 3-year-olds, we're trying to see who is going to be able to take the step forward, and I think that's the key in these Derby and Oak prep races. Who has the most upside? So, starting with the early runner, the 1 South Lawn, it's going to be too slow of a wire-to-wire horse for this field. 48 4/5 is not a first call. She's going to catch in here today. Moving up in class, trying to catch a short field. It's always a recipe for, a good upset. The issue is going to be the two, Christian De Oro. Look at her early speed. The E1 figure tells it all. Much faster pace figures and should be able to beat the one to the first call, making her have to chase. The concern is going to be the four. I really think this is the speed of the speed. She's going to be right on their heels and will be happy to press them until they give in. This race has clearly been the target here. We look at the last line, 48 seconds flat, 112 and 2/5 to the second call. Got quicker as they went, and she just went right on by. I love this race. I think it was smart to sit out the Rachel Alexandra to really target, the Fairgrounds Oaks. I really think this is their shot they're taking in here. The three took a pretty logical step forward last time out. It's had a perfect trip, took off late. You look at the route races, the last three races on the past performance for her, increased speed figures each start, and the key is she's beat the two main contenders in here, the Alley's Look and Hoosier Philly. Speaking of Hoosier Philly, we have to take a stand. Are we on her or are we against her? Personally, I'm off her. That what really was the excuse last time out? I feel the pace was not fast enough to really bury her the way it did. Also, I think most would agree she probably goes off as favorite come post time in here. Are you wanting to take 8-5, 3-2 on her? Yeah, I know I'm not. And again, like I said, who has the upside in this race? That's who we have to look for in these prep races. And I think the upside is the 3 and the 4. I took the 4 on top. I'll add the 3 underneath as a B. That's how I'm going to look to tackle this race. Hoosier Philly, I'm going to let her try to beat me in here. I want nothing to do with her. I think she's going backwards. To me, you look at the speed figure. Last year in the Golden Rod, 91. Starts this year with an 80. Obviously, she should run better, but I'm not going to bet on that at the short price, especially when we have two runners that look to be taking way bigger steps forward in this field. Louisiana Derby, the 12th race in here. I think we could be looking at a possible pace scenario where the 11 really has his way on the front. If you look 2 races back in the gun runner, went gate to wire. Last time out in the Southwest, you see there Arabian Night, Red Route 1, Frosted Departure. Really a who's who on the Derby trail, even though Arabian Night isn't going to go to the Derby, but definitely was believed by a lot to be a serious contender in the Kentucky Derby. But in that race last time out, I still think he ran a good race, went from 5th to 3rd, cut down beaten lengths before fading. Again, sloppy track. 3 races back at Churchill, sloppy track, didn't run very well. The race in the middle there, that gun runner, is the key in here today, I think. The other early horse that he's going to have to contend with is the 1, Shopper's Revenge. Again, 2 races back, you see gate to wire, breaking the maiden. Last time out, over at Oaklawn, off slow, as you see in the comments, went 5 wide. I like to see that this horse knows how to pass runners, is going to fight, and has shown the ability to run on the pace and win. Now, the 11, that pace line was 48 seconds to the first call, 112 and 2/5 to the second. We see here Shopper's Revenge, 48 and 1/5, 113 and 2 in his gate to wire effort. Those two should be looking to get to the front and go on with this race. The issue is that we have so many off the pace runners in here. Does it set up for these deeper closers like the favorite here, the 2 Instant Coffee? You see last time out in the Lecomte, 47 to the first call, 112 to the second. Love those quick fractions and got out and won. 2 back, slower fractions, but still was able to close. A good presser, but again, is he going to be speed compromised? You can't toss this too. I think he's serious. But if we're facing super slow fractions, bottled up, you have to think, is that 2-1 worth it? The 3, was highly regarded, not highly, but was coming in as a key player after that Iroquois win. Hasn't done much since. I'm not too thrilled. He's a toss for me. The 4, Sun Thunder, another one. Good closer. You see there in the Risen Star, came from the absolute clouds, but again, quick pace, got the pace to run into. You go 2 back, not the swiftest of fractions. Came up, didn't do much as far as beat lengths, just really, picked up the pieces. I think Sun Thunder's a serious player getting over here to the fairgrounds, and I think we saw that last time out with that big 96 speed figure. You can give the excuse 2 back on the sloppy track. I'm willing to do that, especially if we're going to have weather that's fine Saturday. But I think Sun Thunder's one you're going to want to keep in these tickets, especially with that ability to pass horses. The 5, Disarm, is, well, it was kind of a big talk at Saratoga last summer. Impressive 7-furlong win, 5th to 3rd to 1st before drawing well clear in that race. Long return last time out at Oaklawn Park, went off as favorite. Only a mile race, didn't really get to really stretch out and show what he can do. And I think in here today, will be able to. 10-1 is a crazy big price on him. Again, matched his 2-year-old speed figure. You expect him to take a step forward. 10-1, more than worth it in this race. The 6, coming out of the optional claimer. I like the first call. The second call, they absolutely collapsed. Last time out, he was the race. He was all that was in that race. Shouldn't take a huge step forward, but I would expect a little bit more, especially in that group that wasn't the strongest. Hopefully the public latches onto this Pletcher runner a little bit, and we can get a price that we can toss in here. The 7. Again, you want to look for horses that are progressing in their career, and the 7 fits that build. Look at the last 2 route races, an 83 speed figure, 94 last time out, passing horses 2 back, 7th to 4th to 1st, drawing off. Last time, after breaking the maiden, 5th to 4th to 1st, before losing by a neck. You have to like that. Again, waters get deeper in here, but has the right profile of a horse that you want to see on the trail like this. You can't toss a 12-1 horse in a pretty open field that I feel right now. The 8, Single Ruler, not much. Not in the best of form. Broke maiden, took a shot in the Risen Star last time out. I think he's going to have to take a huge step in here to do much. I'm not too thrilled on him. 113 2/5, second call when he won. Yeah, going to be a pass for me in here. Tappett's Conquest, they're claiming it's going to be a scratch. I don't want to touch on him too much. I think he's a player, but if he's going to scratch, I don't think we're good with spending our time looking at him too much. But for the sake of discussion, before scratches come out, the race last time out in the Risen Star is a question mark. I don't understand why he came from the absolute clouds to try to win. Now, with that being said, the pace was more than swift enough for him to press into. I think if he sat probably a little bit more forward, maybe he runs better. Again, that's just speculation. I do like seeing the 93 speed figure back to back again. I think that's a good step of something good to come. Take a good forward step. But you look at the finishes, not a whole lot to be impressed with so far this year. Went off as favorite in an optional claimer. You say, okay, that's fine. Obviously a comeback spot. But last time out in the Risen Star, I don't give much of an excuse for that race, So, 10-1 the morning line, I'm not going to really include in here. I think if you want to get super wide, which clearly you can see I am, but, Tappett's Conquest, I really am not that firm of a believer in him right now, and I think I'm going to have to let him try to beat me in this race. Moving over to the 10, same thing. You see last time out, able to pass horses 6th to 5th to 4th to 1st, gets up by a neck. What's the question in the Lecomte? Class level? I think that's what we're looking at here. You see in the Smarty Jones stakes race, didn't win. You see further back in that grade 2, not much happened. I just think maybe this isn't really a high enough class horse, maybe a good stakes horse, but graded stakes wise, not so much. Again, a closer, which is going to be in the mix no matter what, because of how things are, how racing works, but I just don't think enough speed up front early for these deeper closers to do much damage. And then skipping over the 11, we've already talked about, over to the 12. Like broke maiden last time out, not the quickest of fractions. I'm not too thrilled. And I'm gonna have to let him try to beat me in here today, especially with a big move up in class. I just think this 11, Jace's Road. You look at the company last race, made a good move versus second call, sloppy track, didn't run the best, but still ran a good race. 2 back, the wire-to-wire effort. It has to be the game plan in here today. So I want to have a lot of exposure to him at 12-1. I have him as an A. I'm also going to add in the 5, Disarm, who, if we get 10-1, worth every penny of your win bet to go place on him. He was a big player up at Saratoga last summer. Last time out, just only a mile gets to stretch out. These gun runners that get better with more distance, that's what he gets in here today, 10-1. I love him at 10-1. And then I'm also going to add in the 1, Shopper's Revenge, in my A group. I really want to target these forwardly placed runners in this race that doesn't look to have a whole lot of speed. So with my A's, I'll have the 11, 5, and 1. And then with my B's, I think we have to get logical in here. Clearly the 2, Instant Coffee's a player. I just can't have him as an A with having to come from so far off the pace, I think. And I think that's what's going to happen in here again today with how I'm seeing things shake up. I'm also going to add in Sun Thunder again. Same sort of thing. Has to come from off the pace. I don't want to put a horse like that in my A group, especially in a race that seems to be pretty open, but the 2 and the 4 do seem the most logical of runners, and I can't quite toss them in here, especially in a race like this. And then lastly, I'm going to add in this 7. I feel, again, you're looking for horses that have upside. He has upside. His last 2 races that were routes, 83 to a 94. Can he get to a triple digit today, potentially at 12-1? I love to take that shot, especially as a B horse. I think you couldn't go wide enough in this race. I think there's some that we obviously can toss, but I think going wide to end this sequence is going to be very, very smart, and especially being able to press our opinions of the 1, 5, and 11 at those double-digit morning line prices as our A's. Let's look at the grid as a whole, all the A's and B's. I really think these turf races are ones, especially with the favorites wanting to be more forwardly placed and possibly want to go wire to wire. I think they're complete tosses. Look to toss them out of tickets. Really look to go for a big play here because we're going to single in on Art Collector, and we're also going to take a hard stand on Hoosier Philly, who I think doesn't quite have the upside that the other 2 contenders in there have. End it out, go really wide in that Louisiana Derby. Look to catch a double-digit price and bring this thing home. I think a small ticket play is more than worth it in here with tossing a few of the favorites and Hoosier Philly, who I think will go off as favorite, trying to beat 3 of them in here on a smaller ticket. And I think it's very possible if we're able to craft our opinions around this. Again, this is before scratches, before changes, rough framework to get ourselves thinking headed into Saturday once we want to solidify this ticket for the All Stakes Pick 5.